sometimes it's kind of weird. Usually these are live. So I'm just kind of acting a little more like it's alive. Probably should have said
Okay.
that. Okay.
All right.
Hello, my name is Nikki Fetterman. I am the Education Outreach Coordinator at the Canton Museum of Art. I am here with Stephen Tornero, who is a local artist and teacher and textile extraordinaire. And I am so excited to ask him about his process and his background and all things fibers today. So, Stephen, hello.
Hi. First of all, thank you for pronouncing my name right.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have no idea how many people don't get it right. But yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
absolutely.
excited to be here and talk to you today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you. Okay, so let's start. What is your background? Like, how did you decide you wanted to be a teacher? What is your kind of, what path did you take? Where did you go to
Yeah.
school? All that stuff.
Okay, so the story is like I have a lot of teachers in my family, and
Okay.
I always knew that I wanted to be some sort of teacher when I grew up. And then in high school, I was pursuing visual art, and I told my parents I wanted to be a graphic designer, and they said no. And they were like, we will not help you pay for college if that's what you want to do. But if you get a teaching degree and do art education, then we're going to help you with, money and things like that. And so I was like, okay, I'll try it. Because I knew that I liked both of those things.
Yeah.
And I liked working with kids. And I did an internship with a teacher in North Canton. And that was really like, okay, this is what I want to do. So I went to college and I did my art ed bachelor's degree at Kent State University.
Okay.
And I had a lot of teaching experiences through that. And then I started working at a school in Canton.
Okay.
And it was high school students who had special needs and other behavioral issues. And I did like teaching there, but there were just a lot of staffing changes where like my directors would change a lot. And so I was like, okay, now's a good time to go get my master's degree.
Yeah.
So I got a teaching assistantship at Kent. And while I was there, I was trying to pick up the other like skills that I didn't really necessarily master when I was an undergrad. And I decided to take this weaving class, and I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know that my professor, Janice Lessman Moss, was like a famous artist in the United States, and she had been on
Yeah.
TV stuff. And I know that's not what makes you famous, but you know what I mean. And I had no idea that this was such a good program. And I was like, you know what? I just want to know how you do this thing. I want to know how the looms work. I like working with this. I like doing it. And the first couple of projects that we did, like I have some of them, they're not here with me right now, but they're so ugly. And I just kind of had to push through it because I was like, okay, I know that I know how to do this, but it was so challenging for me at first because I had never done anything with fibers or weaving or yarn or things like that before. I had just done, lots of drawing and painting and printmaking, but I just really liked the physical of the weaving part. And then
Yeah.
actually my favorite part of the process is dyeing the yarn, because then I'm in total control of like what color it is. And sometimes that's bad because I make ugly colors. I mean, there are no ugly colors, but there are colors that make me sad.
Oh, well, I
So,
wanted to talk to you about that actually. What
yeah.
did you start kind of your foray into dyeing materials when you were in your graduate program? How did you
Yeah.
decide you wanted to kind of pursue this in your graduate program? Because it sounds like you weren't, you didn't go straight to an MFA for textiles.
No.
Yeah, so how did you kind of do that, and then how did you come to dye your materials? Because I love your dye work. I love so many of
Oh,
the
thank
colors
you.
that you choose.
Yeah. So the class that I took, and I actually only took one weaving course, and it was called Design and Production. And so the whole course is about starting with yarn that's not dyed and then dyeing it to your specifications of color and like what weight it needs to be, and then weaving it into a project that you design.
Oh, wow.
So basically it's like starting from like, actually have, let me show you. So like this is linen. This is my favorite thing to work with ever. And it's just like bleached white linen. And our job is to take this and then dye it all the colors we need to dye it, and then calculate all of the calculations for how much you need of it, and then make it into a finished thing, whether it's
Right.
a textile artwork or it's a scarf or whatever. So I got really excited when I was able to physically control like the colors of the yarn. That was really interesting.
Yeah.
And the different color combinations that the dyes make and things like that. And I just got excited about the really saturated color.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah, that was part of that class. And then my master's is in art education.
Oh, it is. Oh,
So yeah, it is in art education. So I have an MA in that, but the weaving was, they make you do like a studio focus.
like a concentration. Yeah. Okay.
Like a concentration. So I had to take 9 hours of something, and I chose to take 9 hours of textiles.
Okay. Oh,
So
interesting. Okay. For
mhm.
some reason, I thought that your master's was in textiles, so I didn't know kind of how
No,
you found that world. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So I know why you went into art ed originally, but how has your passion for education kind of changed and shifted, and how has your view of being a teacher kind of changed from just going in at your very first moment when you were like, well, I guess I need to go to college, like
Mhm.
here I go. How has it kind of evolved education for you?
Yeah, I've actually been thinking a lot about this because I have a student teacher this year, and she's
Oh,
also from Kent State, and she's like 20. She's just, wants to do all this stuff. And I was thinking about me starting, and I thought I knew everything when I was starting my teaching job. Like I thought I knew exactly what I was supposed to do, what I was going to teach these kids, what they were going to learn, blah, 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 blah. And then gradually, and I know you might have encountered other art teachers or people that say this, but you kind of like get broken down and kind of scale back a little bit.
yeah.
And now I feel myself kind of like building up a new curriculum of things based on what my students need as opposed to what I thought they needed.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of talking a lot to my student teacher about this because she's like, well, Kent tells us to teach this and this and this and blah, 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 and I'm like, okay, you can do that and that's fine. But I want the kids who come to my room to have some sort of success regardless of what level they're at, because I do have
Absolutely.
a lot of students, yeah, in seventh and eighth grade who haven't had an art class since fourth grade or beyond.
Yeah.
And they come in and they're just like, I just like colors and I just like to draw footballs. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to figure that out for you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's about that true passion, and being able to kind of find that in your students and pull out that thing. I always talk about, because when I was a classroom teacher, I remember kids always being like, I can't draw. I can't do this. I can't do that. And it's like, yeah, but maybe you're an amazing woodworker and you've never worked with wood. Or maybe,
mhm,
you have a knack for fibers, but you've never gotten your hands on a material before. Or, and
right.
obviously as a teacher, there are a lot of time constraints and a lot of other, kinds of things that make you not able to fully be, you know, immersed in every single student's independent journey, like wholly, but you can kind of, pull that out of them. And middle school is such an exciting time to do that, because that's when kids are really wanting their independence, um
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Exciting. That's a word you could say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Middle school is very weird. I went into it thinking it was going to be one thing, and then it was not that thing at all.
Yeah.
And just now I'm realizing that that's better than where I would have ended up. And I don't know. I'm starting to like, okay, it was just really hard the first couple of years to move to middle school from elementary, where the kids are like, I love art. I want to do it all the
Oh,
time. I love you. You're such a good teacher, blah, blah, blah. And then you go to middle school and they're like, I hate my parents and I hate art and I hate you. And I don't want to be here right now. I need to leave me alone. And just like, the more that you learn that their attitudes and behaviors are not about you,
Yeah.
and just try to connect with them through that, the easier it's been for me to teach and really get to know them a lot better. And that's been so awesome because they
Yeah.
are really turning into little adults. Like
They
I tell
are.
people that they're like, you're in the cocoon right now. Like they're not the butterfly yet, but they're like in the cocoon. And so whenever I have a bad day, I'm like, well, you're just in the cocoon digesting your things from when you were a caterpillar. You're not ready yet. It's fine.
Yeah.
12, you have many years to figure these things out for yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really wonderful way to put it. Middle school is one of my favorite levels to teach personally, and I feel like a lot of teachers are like, "Whoa, like I don't know about that." But
Yeah.
it is so special. They are definitely absolutely in a cocoon, 100%. Uh, yeah. Uh
Yeah.
so tell me a little bit about what you're doing now. I guess I'll shift away from education a little bit again. Um,
Okay.
what are you doing now? What are you working on? I'm starting to like see your work a lot of places. I know you have something at Summit Art Space right now and Fresh.
Yeah.
You just had a little show at Tropis Projects in Kent.
Yeah.
What is your art life looking like?
So, um, it's kind of been like a weird little journey because when I was a kid, I was making certain things that like I liked, but they took a long time and they were really hard to dye all the colors into the yarn. And there's this process called ecot where you have to like bind little sections of the yarn to leave them white. And
Mhm.
you can really use those to make giant pictures. And that was kind of the focus. And it was about, me really asserting lots of control over the yarn to try to get it to do what I wanted it to. And then I was trying to do that, and I was only working at Kent in the summertime when wasn't teaching, and I didn't have my own space or a loom or anything like that. And then recently, because of COVID-19, I was like, I can't go to Kent this summer, so I need my own place. And I started in here, and kind of in the absence of that like group think mode where everyone's kind of doing a similar thing, I started developing some other techniques that I wanted to explore.
Mhm.
And I kind of moved away from doing the images, and now I'm just really worried about what shapes and what colors things are. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the thing at Summit Art Space, the big purple thing,
Mhm.
but I'm just really all about making triangles right now. It's
Yeah.
really weird, but I did this little triangle sample in a summer class a couple of years ago, and I was like, okay, how much can I do with the triangles? So like I'm changing the scale of them, I'm changing the fibers I make them with, I'm changing, trying to play with foreground and background, and just to see how much mileage I can get out of that weaving structure,
Yeah.
because it's all the same structure. You just push, I mean, I set up my loom and I push the same 8 petals all the time, but I'm trying to figure out what I can do with that. And then the other thing that I was experimenting with was trying to do tote bags that have like one panel on the front, and the
Okay.
panel is like decorative and it's kind of like a piece of my artwork that they can take with them.
I
So it's
love
kind
that
of like,
idea.
yeah. And so one of my ideas I want to try to do this summer is do like, I don't know what I'm calling it yet, but like movable art museum or something like that, where I have, people having the tote bags or like having them around, and like I take pictures of them out in the spaces. Like
Okay.
that's the dream. But for right now, I'm just working on triangles. And
Okay.
some people have commissioned more triangles, so I'm working on that. And I'm just kind of finding other places for my work to go. And what else? Yeah, I never framed anything before. That was a new thing that I tried.
Yeah,
Um,
your work in frame is really beautiful. It's
yeah,
like it really transforms the work in a way that I don't know why I wouldn't expect that to happen, but I saw some photos of your work in the frames and I was like, "Oh wow, that really breathes
yeah.
a different life into that piece." Yeah.
It's weird, and I had to think about it a lot, which I shouldn't have to overthink it so much, but I'm like, well, if I put it in a frame, am I containing its energy and trying to close it in and like, putting it in a box and I'm controlling it and I'm doing this to it when it's supposed to be free and it's a piece of cloth.
Right.
So you can get very deep into thinking about presentation and why and whatnot. But for whatever reason, and I think it's, Eurocentric Western canon of painting stuff, but I think people understand art when it is inside of a rectangle.
Yeah.
Once
Oh,
you put it in the
absolutely.
rectangle, even if it's a square, like an Instagram square, like that's why I love doing all those square pieces because I'm like, look, it's like an Instagram post waiting to happen in your home.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. So when you put it in a rectangle, all of a sudden people are like, art.
Yeah.
It's the,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I'm not trying to use all my big words in one thing, but like it's that semiotics thing of like, I see the rectangle, I see the picture inside the rectangle, I know that that's an artwork. So I think that kind of helped people approach it better.
Yeah. Definitely.
So
Especially with
yeah,
something like textiles, which is so often viewed as like the thing you lay on your table, the thing you hang on your window, like woven fabrics and things like, oh, those, go on my body. Like, I think so
right.
many people have a hard time. I mean, and this has always been a thing in art with like art versus craft, art versus craft. Like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? But like, it's
Yeah.
it's so interesting just how like our perception does change when we do. I
Mhm.
mean, even as fiber artists, which our viewers might not know, but I'm also an artist. I don't really talk about that much on
Yeah.
when I'm doing it. But I work with fibers as well, and it's definitely an interesting kind of um, yeah, juxtaposition of materials. Like, yeah, it's
Mhm.
nice. So wow, it sounds like you have a lot going on. I am going to ask you about something that's happening at the Canton Museum of Art right now,
Okay.
which is another type of textile process that you did recently. You felted a flower for the Canton Museum of Art for Project Bloom, which we've been hinting at a little bit through many posts and other Ask Thus. Tell me
Mhm.
a little bit about felting and what that is and why you chose to felt your flower.
Yeah. So felting, I think is one of the oldest fiber processes. I didn't like formally take a class in it. I took a workshop one time a long time ago, and I kind of just learned the basics along the way. But it's really, really interesting to me how there's this like fluffy stuff, and then it does this weird magic thing halfway through where it makes this like sheet.
Yeah.
And that texture is always so awesome for me to like think about and play with. And when you proposed the Bloom flower project idea to me, I was like, okay, I don't want to do a weaving necessarily because there's nothing on my loom right now. So what else can I do? And I was looking around and I had all this fleece and I was like, okay, so I can make a sheet of paper basically, but it's fiber paper. And
Yeah.
then I can do, paper construction and things like that with the felt that I could do normally. And the other reason why I liked doing it is because felt making is something that I do with my students a lot, and just trying to get them to understand like this is from a sheep. A sheep made this for you. You know, I dyed the colors into it. Like they don't understand the dyeing process at all. So one day I did bring in my like dyeing setup and showed them.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I have like a crock pot that I do it with, and I'm like, okay, watch. You put the stuff in it, you do the thing, you swirl it around, it's gonna boil, and later on I'm gonna pull it out, and it's gonna be orange. They're like, what? But yeah, so they got that part, and that was a little more interesting for them, and they understand how that process works a little better. And so I thought, okay, well, if I share that process with you, then maybe people would get excited to do that. Because if my eighth graders can felt something, then obviously, your viewers can do it too. And that's not that hard.
Yeah, definitely. And you donated so much roving, as many people probably don't know. So, sheep's wool is called roving after it's basically like clean and uh,
Yeah.
I don't
After
exactly
it's washed
like.
and
Yeah,
carded and
exactly. It's
something.
made into this like I can't remember what the other step is called.
Yeah, there's one other thing you do. It's like combed and carded and washed and something, and then it becomes a roving or a batting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you donated a ton to the museum, and I am actually spending some time tomorrow. So on Thursday and Friday, we're recording this on Tuesday night, but Thursday and Friday, there will be felting kits available for pickup at the museum, free of charge. Thank you so much to Stephen Tornero for that. And
Yes.
yes, people will be able to felt right along with you when they're watching your artist video Saturday for our virtual family day.
Yeah.
So very
Well, you're
excited.
welcome. And honestly, I get some of the roving, I buy it. Some of the roving is donated to me because, like when you're the fiber person, people are like, oh, do you want this thing or do you want this yarn or this weird stick that I found? Like,
Yeah.
random stuff. There was a secretary at our central office and she wanted to try spinning wool and she bought so much of it. And then she was like, oh no, this isn't it for me. And so she ended up donating it all to me because she knew that I was a weaver and then I also wanted to teach the kids. So there's a lot of little bits and pieces of stuff in there. I tried to organize it in like colors that I thought were harmonious.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, whatever happens, happens, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think that a lot of the bags of color are really beautiful. So I'm just going to be kind of taking them and condensing some into like slightly smaller kits for
Sure.
students. But yeah, so
Yeah.
anyone can pick one up and it's going to be super fun and super
Mhm.
exciting. And we have tons of artist videos releasing on Saturday for our virtual family day. One of
Mhm.
those is a video by Stephen teaching you how to felt. So please
Yeah.
enjoy that.
And I didn't include any soap. I was gonna do a weird thing where I put like little tiny bags of soap in the bags, and I was like,
Oh,
this isn't
that would be
necessary.
so
People
nice.
have soap, I hope, at their home.
But yeah,
So
I think a lot of people have soap, especially right now.
mhm.
Fingers crossed on that
Yeah.
one.
And
So
any kind of soap will work. Like even just like hand soap that you have in your bathroom, I've used that in a pinch, and you don't need like Dawn dishwashing liquid. It's not that big of a deal.
yeah, I remember when I was in college, we had somebody come in and teach one of our art ed classes how to felt, and they just used like a bar of Lever 2000 or whatever, and they were just like rubbing
Yeah.
it on the felt, and
Mhm.
yeah, you can really use anything, and it's fun. I'm gonna make a felted flower on Saturday. I don't ever wet felt. I always needle felt, so wet felting is
Well,
really
yeah,
fun and different for me. I mean, I have wet felted, but it's not my
yeah.
favorite.
And this is like a no fail process. If you follow the steps, you don't even get wet. I
Yeah,
mean, you could if you want to, but like that's the whole deal. Because I have so many kids who are like, so like, I don't like it, and it smells and
yeah.
it's weird.
That's
And
that's why I
then
don't like wet felting is the
yes,
feeling of it in your
yeah.
yeah.
And then one time I had a student tell me that she didn't want to do it because she was a vegetarian.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to explain that, like, well, no, like the sheep is alive. They just gave it a haircut. And she was like, oh, well, that's okay.
Well, to be fair, a lot of vegans don't use wool products,
That's true.
and that has to do with a lot of like larger farms and places that don't
Yes.
ethically,
And the
um,
ethical care of the sheep.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
ethical care is
Unfortunately,
very important. Yeah.
yes. Unfortunately, that is a big problem. And when I use my own wool yarns and things like that, I do try to source things from Ohio where I know, or Michigan. There's a great place in Michigan where I get things.
Yeah.
But as far as the roving and stuff goes, when I'm buying it for my students, it's really more about price.
Yeah, definitely.
And but sometimes I just go to the fiber show in Worcester on Memorial Day and just some lady hands me a bag of stuff and it's $20 and I don't ask her any questions.
Yeah,
So yeah,
definitely. That's I would not doubt that that's from a sheep close by.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Stephen, thank you so much for being part of Ask the. It has been
Yeah.
wonderful having you, and I love hearing about your process and about what you're making right now. And thank you so much for being part of Project Bloom and really doing a lot for the museum recently. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm glad you thought of me for this. And it's been
Yeah.
an awesome opportunity to think about things in a different way. So,
Oh, good. I love to hear that. Well, I will catch up with you soon. Have a great one.
okay,
All
thanks.
right. Bye bye.